Hello, everybody, and welcome to the sounder of Lady Hoggers. It is me again, Molly, along with my donkeys in the background. Sorry about that.
You today, did you?
Golly. So it's me again, Molly, and I'm here with Laura and Amanda. Say hello.
Hello.
And we got Berthy and Pearl, the donkeys, in the background. So, all right. So this is our second episode of the Sounder, and today we are going to talk a little bit about farrowing. So it is that time of the season when litters are starting to hit the ground, little babies are going to be everywhere, and there's a lot of people that this is their first time farrowing, and they're a little nervous, and they got a lot going on. So we're going to go over some of our experiences, and we're just going to randomly talk about some farrowing that has happened on our farm or of others that we know about. If you have any questions about it or any input about our conversation today, make sure that you send us an email at thesounderpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's thesounderpodcast@gmail.com, and we will try to get those questions answered. So, you ladies ready to talk about some baby pigs entering the world?
Yes.
All right. So, really what brought this conversation up is all of the introductions that was on our Facebook group, the Sounder of Lady Hoggers. A lot of people talking about it's their first time having babies or they're thinking about breeding animals, So that's really what brought this up. And we thought that we would just talk a little bit about that and talk about just what we go through, So I know that Amanda has not farrowed yet. She was just straight on raising some feeder hogs.
Yes. Yeah. That so far is all I have done is just with feeders. But with moving, our plan is to get into breeding and being a farrow to finish type operation. So I'm excited to hear about all of your experiences, and I'm sure I may have some questions along the way, and I'll definitely chime in with those.
Yeah.
Would you define farrowing? That was a term that I had to learn when I started with pigs. What does farrowing mean? And then just like you mentioned, Amanda, what's a feeder and breeders? A lot of people, that's a question that I answer a lot. Could you help define that for everybody that's new?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that it's called farrowing, right? They,
right.
It's a labor or just giving birth. So That's what farrowing is, the process of the giving birth, right? Mm-hmm. So when a sow or a gilt lays down, she's nested and she's ready to go, then that is the farrowing process, right? Mm-hmm. And then when the babies actually come out, they have been farrowed. So it's just a giving birth.
Yep. Birthing baby pigs.
Yeah, little baby pigs entering the world, man. So, and then, you got feeder and breeder. And I think, and it seems like it should be common sense, right? You should know what a feeder and what.
To make sure I had it right, though. I mean,
Yeah. You do think that it should be. But a lot of people do get confused because this is what I've realized. I got sent 2 pictures from 2 totally different farms, right? One in Texas and the other one I think is like in Utah. So they had bought some feeder pigs. So a feeder is a hog that you're going to grow out to eat, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be harvested. Mm-hmm. And they had bought feeder pigs, but then they decided that they wanted to keep them and breed them. Okay? And this is where the difference between a feeder and a breeder shows up. Because
now you pause there for just a second as a feed thing. So what you're saying is they bought feeders that were female feeders because they can be either one, and then they decided to breed them after they got them for feeders.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And so this is where the true definition of feeder and breeder kicks in.
Yeah.
Because they were sold as feeders for a reason, right?
Yeah. Right.
And they were not meant to be bred for a reason. And what happened was on the 2 that was sent to me here recently is they literally did not have enough functioning teats to feed the litter.
Yikes.
So one sow out of 14 teats only had 4 functioning ones. The other sow out of 14 teats, out of 14 teats had 6.
Goodness.
How many piglets were they dealing with?
So the first mommy, who had the least amount of teats, had 17.
Holy moly.
Yes.
No.
And then the second one, with their teat count, they actually got lucky. They had 9 born, 8 alive. So they had 6 teats. 2 were going to have to fight for them, but that's better than the 17 on the 4.
Yeah.
That's about impossible.
Wow.
For them to be faced with. Yeah.
Yeah. So that leads me into another thing is a lot of people, although we may think that is common sense, they do not think to look at the underline of the female hogs that they are wanting to turn into a breeder.
Yeah. We don't really do that in the Maishon because we're still about building numbers.
Yes.
So teat count is something that some breeders are looking at, but for us, it's about the recovery effort for right now. So you are right, but in the Maishon, that's not a critical thing at this point.
Yes, and I think a lot of it goes to the genetics too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, and that's a whole different ball game.
It's a whole nother conversation.
It's a whole other thing. So a lot of it does go into the genetics, and if you're breeding registered animals, right, then those registered animals are supposed to have those genetics that are keeping the breed going. Still will get some faulty stuff, but they're in the registry for a reason.
Right. Yeah, and we also don't have it as an issue. Let me say that.
Yeah.
We don't see it that's not I don't know that I've ever heard of that actually in farrowings with the Maishon. Now, could it develop? I mean, of course, but we're not faced with that right now. But anyhow, I don't want to derail your story. So where did you go? What do you do with that? I mean, that would overwhelm any of us.
Yeah. So if you have more babies than you do have teats to feed them, there are some different options that you can do. I've had to do it before. I have a sow, actually Rosie, who has not pushed out her egg yet.
The one we've all been watching online?
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah, that bitch is playing games. Making me look like a fool.
When you're done recording, you'll go find them.
I know. So Rosie has pushed out pretty big litters. Her first gilt litter was 14, and her second litter was 14, but she only has 12 teats.
Okay.
And with the 2 extra, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it can cause chaos, with them fighting over teats. So one thing that I did is I separated out the litters, right? And this is if you have a good mommy that lets you mess with them. But I took the litter and I split it in half, and I went out 4 times a day, and I split the litter, let one litter eat for 30 minutes, took them off, put the others in, let them eat for 30 minutes, and then I put everybody together.
That's a good idea, because then you weren't having to feed that many piglets. That can be a lot.
Yes, it can be a lot. Another thing that you can do is start them early on creep. So creep feed is a milk replacer, or say fresh dairy or fresh goat milk. Taking that, you can either leave it just as the milk itself or mix in some little bit of feed, some starter feed, and get that mixed up in a slop and get them started on that. Putting it in a place to where they know where to go to, but the mommy can't get it.
Yeah. I always make sure too that they get colostrum. It's either, was it 24 or 48 hours? I know 48 for sure. I have to Google it again. 48 hours, that after that point it's irrelevant. But I try to have colostrum milk replacer and then regular Unimilk milk replacer around, just in case, if you need to pull something or supplement. But I agree with you 1,000%. People will reach out to me and say one is a little weak. should I pull it? I don't believe in pulling piglets unless there is no other way, because in my experience, it starts a chain of events that you're more likely to lose that piglet than you are to save it. Have you seen that as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm the queen of taking baby pigs in.
Jerry.
You know, I got Jerry, Rosalind, Margie, Tammy Faye. Yeah. And I tell this, it is not the best thing to do. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, nature has to run its course.
Yeah.
And the ones that I have taken from their mommy are the least thriving piglets I have.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't seen the thriving thing on the other side, but I learned the very, very hard way that, piglets are born with zero immune system, and I didn't realize that. So when you've got a baby piglet and you're raising it in the house and everybody wants to hold it, you may kill it doing that, because the more people that interact with it, the more cooties they're introducing, and they may not be able to take that.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a hard, sad lesson that I learned. And if you do have to pull them, we had to do a C-section on a sow when I very first got the foundation herd.
Oh.
Lost every one of them, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, so mama's milk is the best. We can't beat that. We can't replace that. That immunity that they get from that, that's, if at all possible, I think it needs to stay there.
Yeah. And this is just a funny story, but me and my sister always crack up, like when people get sick or whatever. We're like, yeah, we don't get sick because we's breastfed.
It's the truth.
Yeah. We were straight on the titty, So
yeah.
But it is the best thing, and you are right. It's the 48 hours. After 48 hours, they don't absorb that out of the colostrum that they need. So you know, a lot of people will say that the piglet is almost a week old, and they're still trying to give it colostrum, and I'm like, yeah, it's done. You're just wasting it.
Yeah. But
yeah.
I'm sorry, what
the colostrum? It's expensive. If you're having to buy the replacer, it's expensive. So yeah, if you can avoid doing it for that long and really just using it in that 48-hour window, money.
And those piglets that need that every 4 hours, that's tough. Any that we've had to pull, we always want to first, did they get colostrum? Second, or are we at the 6-hour window point? Because nobody wants to sign up for that first 3 days.
Yeah.
Every 4 hours. I mean, it's kind of fun. It's cute, but that wears off really fast.
Oh, yeah, it does wear off. I had that litter born on that freeze that hit right before Christmas.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And she was due on Christmas, and I hadn't moved her yet. And they came on that Friday or Saturday morning. And it was negative 37 wind chills down here, or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. It was not a good day in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
No.
And so I took them, and I took them out every 3 hours to eat off their mommy.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for 4 days.
Wow.
So I needed them to get the milk off the mommy. Not what I was, what I could give them. And it ended up working out. And thankfully it was a gilt. So it was the first time mama, and she was very cooperative. So that helped out.
Yeah. You ever milked a pig?
So I was actually getting ready to say that. There is a woman in our group, and I hope I'm not misspeaking about it. What has she done? I'm going to have to pause just a second.
Okay.
Video it. Keep it going.
No, she's got her leg caught in a fence. Hold on.
Jeez.
Pearl!
I needed that laugh. I needed it a lot.
Yeah. Well, at least you just get to witness it for this 45 minutes.
That's right. I'm not living it. That's the best part.
Okay. So back to you asked if ever milked a sow. And there is a lady in her group. I hope I don't misspeak about her, but it's Suzanne Andrew,
Mm-hmm.
and she's out in Colorado actually. And I remember reading a post, and she was commenting on it, and she actually milked a sow to collect colostrum.
Wow.
Yeah,
Been there, done that.
yeah. I've not done it, but that's a dedication.
I have done it. Yeah. Yeah. We had a sow that she farrowed, I think 7, and she was just an awful mom, and squished a couple of them, and so we had to get the piglets away from her. She didn't want anything to do with them and was hateful about it, but I could milk her, so milk her I did, and we got a little syringe. I keep several sizes of syringes here, and 3 of those are still here as pets.
Oh.
So yeah, so it worked out okay. But that was something that I thought, oh Lord, I thought in all my things I would never do in my life, milking a pig was probably top of the list. But,
well, I find it pretty amazing because, like, you know, when they lay down and you milk them to see if they're about to farrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I've been able to get milk that way, but that's because it's flowing. You know, it's ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to actually sit down and milk.
Yeah, get a little bottle and get your little pool thing.
Yeah, I've told people to try it. I'm like, you know, maybe put like a syringe over it and like collect it in the syringe. Like, I don't know. I've never done it.
I guess it could work like that. Maybe if you cut the tip off of it. But
yeah, I think it's very.
That
is some dedication.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed with the Maishon, and I'm curious to know y'all's thoughts on other breeds. I don't find that a moment like that defines their offspring. In other words, I've had the guilts that come from a situation like that that they're fine. You know, they're productive members of society, if you will. You know, they're out there throwing big litters, being great moms, doing good things. What have y'all seen?
So it is, you know, that's a big controversy, right? Especially in large production farms.
Okay.
You know, like they'll have a bad mommy, and there is even people that won't even allow one piglet loss. Right? Yes.
Wow.
And they call them one piglet loss.
Wow.
So it is a controversy, you know. Like people will say even on a gilt litter, they'll be like, you know, if they lose more than one, that ain't a good mommy, and you don't need to keep her offspring. I personally don't believe that.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. That's one of those, like we talked about before we came live, about confinement versus pasture and the differences. Not to, you know, we're not here to throw rocks at anybody. I mean, you know, my house is glass some days, just like everybody else. So, so that's interesting. I guess it's because they're that far along in what they do, and they're that refined in their process that they can comfortably do that. That's a life goal there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, it's not just with cattle, or not with cattle. It's not just with swine that I see that, but you also see it in cattle and stuff. Like things will sort of go wrong, and they can ditch away that one because they got, you know, in large productions, they got 1,000 more behind them.
Well, just if I can chime in on that, I know our experience with cattle, we had a first-time heifer who had a calf. We got her bred. She had her calf, and the calf died during labor. She had a difficult time birthing him. He was a large calf. I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that she was bred by terminal bull, meaning they're breeding for large calves, large weaning weights, and not mothering it, like maternal instinct. They're not breeding for that. It's beef. Yeah. So he was a very large calf. And we really, even though we had a small herd, we really went back and forth on, do we breed her again or do we not? Do we go ahead and color because she wasn't able to have this calf? But there were a lot of circumstances there that we were like, well, it could have been this, could have been this, could have been this. after our other cattle had calved, she kept trying to steal their calves. And so we called her the cool aunt because she just wanted to love on all the babies. So we wound up going ahead and deciding to breed her. And she just recently had her second calf and is an awesome mama. So I think sometimes in making those decisions, you really do. I get it in large production where they can afford to do that. But I think sometimes in small production, you just have to really weigh it out, because a loss is a loss, no matter how you slice, dice, or julienne it. And so for us, losing that calf was a huge hit.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of circumstances that we had to weigh out to justify keeping her or taking her off to the train station. So I think that's, you really do have to kind of weigh it out in those individual circumstances and what scale your production is.
Yeah. Yeah. And, a lot, and that can also lead us into the same thing. A lot of issues can go wrong.
Yeah.
With the birthing,
Never a guarantee. Never ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So many things can happen, especially on gilt litters. And I tell people, like, I just talked to somebody the other day, and their sow or gilt had their first litter, right? And she wanted nothing to do with them. But at the same time, once I talked to them and I investigated it a little more, they had went in and messed around and built and put something up for the babies to get under, and they had moved the babies. And so we create chaos, right? Which then the mama goes into freak out because she just had them. She's freaked out herself, So, she didn't want nothing to do with them. But I told him, I was like, I've always been told to give them a few beers, right? If they're acting crazy.
Right. Yeah.
So I told him to give her a few beers, see if she would calm down, and then slowly put her babies back with her, see how she reacted, and they did. And all the babies are still alive today. And that was 3 days ago.
Sweet. Well, that's a happy.
So I think, when it comes to that, like, you hear the horror stories of the mother eating the pigs, she eats them all. She kills them all. She stomps them all. She lays on them all, but there is so many different things that could be happening. Did you cause the chaos? Did you give her the preparation that she may have needed? Were you feeding her correctly? Because a lot of times they'll be eating babies because they're lacking, the nutrients. There's a lot of stuff plays into it. And I think if you did it right and she still was just a foul mother, then that's your own personal decision. If you want to take that risk again, or if you want to process her and move on, But I think nature instances, like I've heard people calling gilts because they had a stuck piglet, but I had a stuck piglet on Rosie's first litter, actually two. One was turned almost sideways, and then there was like two in the canal together, right?
Oh, wow.
So I had to pull those, and somebody told me that I needed to call her because I had to pull those. Okay, but why would I do that? Because I didn't have to pull them all, and nature does happen. She would have never passed those two babies, in the canal together. Right. Just wasn't going to happen. But I think it's personal decisions that we have to make in the moment to see how they do. And if you want to breed them again and you want to take the chance, fine. If you don't, then that's up to you,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I get asked a lot, can we be there when they farrow? And I tell them they have to see what their sow tells them or their gilt. And I know that's another industry term, we'll call it. So a gilt for me is anything under a year old that has not had piglets. Is that the same for you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So what I tell them is, if it is the same way here, if I'm checking on a sow or gilt that's farrowing and I hear them start to posture, they start chomping their jaws and snorting, like a bull, I'm out, because she's trying to say, I don't want you here. So let her do what she's going to do, because if I interfere, I put those piglets' life at much greater risk just because I want to see it, or I want to be there, or I want to sing Kumbaya, or whatever my moment is. I'll just let them tell me, because I have learned that ultimately nature is nature, like you're saying, and you can try to do everything right, and you can be there or you could not be there. I have been there and seen a sow lay on a piglet that I couldn't get to in time. So, I've just had to realize that it's okay. It's going to be what it is. We're going to keep breeding pigs.
Yes.
It's just part of it.
It is. And that's one thing, I do witness all my farrowings because I am obsessed with seeing babies in her.
Yeah.
I love it. But I do witness all my farrowings, and I try to be there because you really don't know. I mean, things can go wrong in a second, right? Yeah. But also, I can't control the nature, but I like to at least be there to help, Yeah. But I do have a sow that, no, you ain't gonna help, right? She don't even want you looking at her out the corner of your eye. Like it's hell on earth,
Yeah, if she tells you it's over, I've had some of those. You have to give her some days because she said.
Yes, and that's where I tell people, like, you have to respect the animal for them to respect you.
Right.
You have to give them their space. If they are a good mother and you have the capability of letting them do their own thing, right? And you have the capability of them being able to do, raise their young or whatever on their own, then that's fine. But you have to respect them and not try to make them do something that they don't want you to do or want to do,
Isn't that farming, though? It teaches us all the time that what we may want it to be may not be in the cards for how it's going to go.
No. My husband says this all the time. He's like, you have to be some sort of mentally unstable to farm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you have to have a hint of insanity.
Yes. Yeah. I say I don't gamble, but I farm, so therefore I gamble.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, it's, we talk about this all the time too, like new people moving to the farm life, right? Never known anything about it or whatever. Yeah. They've watched some YouTube videos or they've read some books, right? And then they're like, I can do this. And they think that this pig is going to birth out some, unicorns and everything's going to be rainbows and sunshine. And then the shit hits the fan, because that's not reality.
Right.
Reality is that these are living creatures and things happen.
Yes.
And we can't control them.
Yeah.
So it's nature at its best. You have to let it go.
We see it in the Maishon. It's not like it used to be in the beginning, but a lot of people think that because of what they paid for breeding stock, every piglet that comes out that hoo-ha, they're going to get that dollar amount for it. And oftentimes that's a setup for failure because, as y'all know, that's not how it works. No. There's a lot more that goes into it, and things happen, and it's just way more complicated than that. There's a lot more to it than that.
It is. And, a lot of people also, going back just a little bit, they are not prepared, right? I think
I've been that person.
Oh no, I was not prepared. The first sow I ever had, I went and bought a pregnant sow, right? I bought her in like November. I had no clue what I was doing. I went and bought this. I traveled up to Ohio and I bought this sow. It took us 3 hours to catch her because she got out of the barn. God, it was a mess.
That's a real experience. That's life with pigs right there.
Listen, it was me, my Uncle Benny, and Ryan, right? So we go to Ohio to get this hog. Ryan is already mad. because he's like, why did you buy this hog? Like, what are you doing? You know? So Ryan's never seen a pig before. Like, he's never been around hogs, ever. Okay?
And so that's his first experience?
Yeah. So we get up there, and Penny, when we went to get Penny, Penny was huge. I mean, she was a 600-700 pound hog.
Wow.
And she's pregnant. So Aiden, who I went up there, he had this hole in his barn, and Penny went straight through the hole, right? She's out in a 25-acre field.
Oh, yeah, she owns you.
Yeah, she owned it. You know, she owned it. And then it's like, so my husband, Ryan, gets this little bitty stick. This little stick.
Oh, cute.
He gets this little bitty skinny stick. And my uncle is mad. He's cussing. He's got a big log. Like, he's like, hit her, you know.
And that's going to fix what?
Yeah, I know. So Ryan has this little bitty stick, and Penny is running at him like a linebacker, you know? And
that's a lot of pig running at you.
Yeah. He takes this stick, and he was like, no, Penny, no. And she just barreled.
He run up in the trailer and had her chase him.
my uncle was like, yeah, this ain't gonna work out. Like, you know, she just barreled right past him. But anyways, on to the real story about being prepared. So we bring Penny home, and she farrowed. We brought her home in November. She farrowed on December the 6th, right?
Oh.
And it was blowing snow. It was -6. Wind chill was like -17 or something that night. And I had her in a 3-sided barn with the snow blowing in on the one side, you know?
Oh, gosh.
And it was just a disaster. I had too much bedding in there. She was not comfortable. She kept getting up, trying to move. She'd have a baby and try to bury it in the straw to keep it warm, and she'd lay on it. Oh, God. It was mortifying. I lost 7 of 11. And it's because I was ill prepared. Right?
Yeah, we have the same problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not that you have to cater to them. A lot of people think, well, they should just be able to do it. Okay, well, you know, humans need help as well. You know, if you're going to farm, you have to be a good custodian and husbandry of your animals.
Right.
Yeah. That was a lesson that bit me on the butt early on. So I had started breeding Maishons when Rico first got them and they came out. And then I realized that it is such an unknown in breeding, and I was building my farm store and learning about USDA rules and trying to figure out how to run a butcher shop that I'd never done before in my life. So I said, you know what? I can't deal with this unknown. Let me just buy from you, Rico, or somebody else, and let me put my breeding operation on hold. So I had successful farrowings, and then Rico calls, middle of COVID, and the store's going nuts. And here's 12 pigs. Some of them are bred. Finished my work, saved the breed. Thank you, bye. And so we kind of had pieced together what we had here, you know, from the meat pigs and things like that. And that's where we got in trouble a lot of times. I found that if you're going to do it, you need to set something up. You know, you can't get away with 3 pallets and a lean-to and a hope and a prayer, especially if you're farrowing in winter.
Yeah.
I lost many litters like that, to the point that I had to say, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it right. Let's build farrowing pens with rails, with runouts and things of that nature. Yeah. So in there, I've got a whole wall of first aid stuff right now. I know people say, what do I need? Well, when I look at it, I'm like, how do I condense this?
Yeah.
You don't know, you don't know till you know.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, that leads to, you know, there's different styles of farrowing, right?
Yes.
You got, like I have a farrowing barn with stalls in it. You know, like they got bumper boards and they got a heat lamp corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, that's what I got. In my horse stalls, my converted horse stalls.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. So you got stall farrowing. You have open pasture farrowing, right?
Yep. Yep.
But they at least need to have a house. They need to have a structure, a well built structure. If you're going to open farrow in the winter or in the fall, you need to have
I think
it.
so. Extreme weather conditions, I agree. But I've had some that I was off by 30 days and they went out in the field. And if you have never seen a sow make that vine stick shelter thing,
Yes.
that's like an igloo that they climb in and
It's
have
beautiful.
their freaking amazing.
It is.
And that's how you need a shelter. So, I built the shelters. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I've also seen some really amazing pasture farrowings that work just fine.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
So, but that was my next thing is you can do, like, I have a sow that open pasture in the woods. She farrows in the woods. She has a shelter at the bottom of the mountain on the flat, but she never uses it. She goes into, there's a gully up there. She goes into the gully. She tears down limbs and trees and leaves. Yeah. She creates it and she does her own thing, and that works for Penny. She does her thing. But so there's a lot of people that open pasture or open woodland farrow, and there's no huts, there's no nothing, and the mommies go out there and they do their thing,
Yeah.
And then, like we've talked before, there is the confinement farrowing.
Amanda, did you have a thought before we jump over that one?
I was just going to chime in. From living on the East Coast for the majority of my life and now living out in the Wild West.
Yeah.
I could see where having stalls would be incredibly important, because here we don't have the woodlands and the trees and all that kind of stuff like y'all have. So,
and you have extreme weather that we just don't have here in Georgia.
For instance, this morning, this is my birthday week, and my husband got me a husky puppy, and so I was out taking him for a walk this morning, and it was -10 wind chill with 25-mile-per-hour winds, and we got 4 snow overnight on top of, this year I think we've had probably somewhere in between 4 and 5 feet of snow already. For our area, that's a lot of snow. So it's drifting, doing all these things. I think you would have to have that. You would have to have stalls of some sort, providing for inclement weather for farrowing, and even just in times when they're not farrowing. I think they would probably still need the windbreak and shelter of some sort to get out. When you don't have the trees, you not only don't have windbreak, but you also don't have shade. You don't have, there's a lot of things. It's different in so many ways in my area, where we're in the Snake River Plain, but it's very desertish. It's like high country desert in the area we are. So we have a lot of sagebrush, and some short scrubby trees, but most of it, like, I can see from here to a mountain range that's almost 3 hours away.
Oh, wow. That's flat.
Wide open, flat, no tree. So,
oh, wow.
I'm sure they could do pastured farrowings, but I think that having the shelters, whether it's a stall or a little barn or whatever it may be, would be really important. Just to make sure that you are prepared and providing what they may need to feel comfortable farrowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something I'm familiar with. I did go to Wisconsin this spring to pick up some pigs, and all the animals were in the barn, and the barn was huge.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about it, but that's not something I've really had to plan. Your climate dictates a lot as well.
Yeah.
It does, and I think that's the most important thing. I tell everybody, nobody farms the same, right?
No.
That is correct.
Because we have to acclimate to our surroundings.
Yes.
The way that I farm is obviously not going to be the way that Amanda is going to farm, or you're even going to farm,
right.
Laura. So you have to acclimate to your surroundings and do what's best for you. A lot of people will take what they see on YouTube of somebody, say, in Florida, raising an animal, and say they live in Wisconsin, Minnesota, what I mean? and they think that they can do the same thing. And no, it's not the same thing.
Right.
You know, it's a lot about just educating yourself on the best practices for your farm, you know, and how you want to do things.
Yeah.
But
When
like,
I wanted to talk to my grandfather so bad. He's long passed, but he was the pig farmer. He was the guy that had the cattle that I grew up with. And I remember standing out there going, if there is a way that I could shortcut what is about to happen, because I didn't know.
yeah,
I didn't know everything you just said was a wild card, and there was very little I could do to circumvent it. And I will always remember that moment that I wanted to be that seasoned farmer, but I didn't want to drive through the pain and the lessons that took me there. I just wanted to be there.
yeah.
And there is no sidestepping that. You know, it just is.
No, it is a lot of work, and I think that people need to realize, you know, with those wanting, so like new people, so they're fresh on the farm, right?
Yeah.
And I had for example, I had a woman message me probably 2 years ago, and she wanted 8 breeding gilts, right? Never raised a hog in her life.
Wow.
That's a big ask.
That's a big ask. She wanted 8 breeding gilts, and she wanted me to source her a boar, and she was going to start breeding. And I'm like, have you ever even raised a hog? Nope, never raised one. And I told her, I was like, as much as I would love to sell you 8 breeding gilts, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
You know, you need to start out with feeder pigs. And I tell everybody, you need to start out with a feeder pig. Even if you grow them with your breeders, get them the same age, and then learn how to farm with those hogs, right? You need to get you a routine. You need to learn about the animal before you actually go into breeding it.
Yeah, because if you find out, it's like goats. I hate goats. But if I'd have had goats and was breeding goats, oh my God, excuse my language, but what a shitstorm.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to live through that. And it can be the same thing with pigs. You know, what if you get them and you're like, you know, this is enough. Oh, I mean, wait, we're going to have babies and I don't know, but here I am now. I've got to ride this train to whatever stop it explodes at. And it's not a good feeling. And you know, I went from farming to the suburbs for about 15 years and then back to farming, and the contrast that it gave me was priceless. You know, when you're new to farming, you come from dogs and cats and the vet's right there, and everything is very predictable and much more set, and you don't have these crises that you can have little control over a lot of times.
Yeah.
Farming blows all that out the window. So I absolutely agree with you. Start with maybe a gilt and a feeder or something small.
Yes.
Make sure you like the things before you go in way deep.
That's what I say too, is that if you are adding animals to your farm and you have this grand idea that you're going to do X, Y, and Z, you get all the animals, you get set up, and then you realize, you know what? I can't stand these animals.
Right. It happened.
It can happen. Goats.
Oh.
It can definitely happen. So I feel like that's why starting with feeders with pigs is, I think that's the best advice, because you really get a feel for what you're going to be working with and whether you want to do that long term or not.
Yeah. And I also tell people it's best to start with feeders as well, because if you're going to dedicate yourself to a breed, right, you need to know about that hog. You need to know about that breed, and you most definitely need to know what it tastes like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I want to throw something out there. I don't recommend that anybody that's breeding hogs sells a female as a feeder. And especially in the Maishon. And people think that it's just because I'm the president of the registry, and it's really not. It is them building competition in their backyard, because your situation that you talked about happens more times than not. Oh, I'm going to eat them. Wait a minute. I think I could sell these babies at a discount, and I think I want to do this. So now you've taken your registered stock and you've got a neighbor that's selling from your stock at half the price. So you just got cut out at the knees.
Yeah.
So I personally, especially with the Maishon, and I think it's good practice across the board, don't sell females as feeders.
Yeah. Now I do sell females as feeders, but I only sell them. I have like contracts, right, with providing feeders to large production farms, meat production.
Okay. Yeah.
So I will sell them to those that I know they have no interest in farrowing. Their interest is in meat. But I've also had people message me wanting feeders, right? But they specifically want females.
They want feeder prices on females.
Yeah.
I had that just yesterday.
I've also had somebody ask me if they were registered.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would they be registered?
Right. That's a little play on words that happens a lot in the industry.
Yeah. But going back to like the specifics, I think that for those that are, thinking about farrowing or breeding their stock, or, it is their first time, I feel like a lot of people, in my instance, all the shit hit the fan on my first one. Sometimes we learn the hardest on the first go round,
Yes.
But
yes.
I tell everybody, I hope that you use it as a learning experience and not get defeated over if there is a tragedy, to always grow with the tragedies, and go into your next one more prepared. You're never going to be fully prepared, but take each one of them until you get you a routine going,
And for me, that has been defining moments for me in what I do. The loss can be so gut-wrenching, painful, that I have asked myself, can I do this? Do I want to do this? Why would I sign up for this again?
Yeah.
And the reality that I decided, and I hope this helps other people as well, I love this life.
Yep.
I love these pigs. I want pigs on my farm. I want baby piglets on my farm.
Yeah.
I want to do this. And those bad moments are something that I have to accept in this life that I wouldn't trade anything for.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm the type of person, like, I will not let it get me, that shit is not going to get me down today. Not today, devil,
Yeah. Tomorrow's a new day too. We start again.
When my first farrowing went down, my husband was like, no more. Absolutely. We're not doing this again. This is awful. And I cried about it for like a month,
Yeah.
And then I woke up and I was like, absolutely not. Like, I will conquer this shit. I will do right because it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I try to, because so many tragedies do happen, but it's from being not even prepared whatsoever,
that learning curve will just kick you in the teeth.
Yeah. But I try to tell people not to get discouraged. You need to plan out how you are going to farrow, right? Go by your surroundings and go, what is the best for your farm? Make sure that you are prepared if it is wintertime. Make sure you do have some heat available if possible, or get them into a shelter that they can thrive in, not just leave them in the cold, But also, you were talking about the medicine cabinet earlier. There are some things that you do need just in case, right? A lot of people don't want to give antibiotics, or they don't, they're antibiotic free or whatever. But there are some things that can help you, just simple little things,
Yeah. Maybe that should be our next episode, as far as what's in our medicine cabinets. Because even, like, I know, Amanda, you don't have pigs right now, but I bet you have a medicine cabinet from the farm.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, maybe we should, maybe bring the most unique item in our medicine cabinets and show it or something.
Oh, God.
Well, I
know what mine is, and I ain't going to put it on here. I got some hillbilly ass shit that I do out here,
I want to see it. Bring it. So,
But
there's so much more we can talk about with this. This has been fantastic.
Yeah.
I think we're running out of time, though.
Yeah. So I'm glad that we did this, although we may not put a lot of points out there, But
I think we did fine.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, for the conversation that we're starting here, I hope that all of our listeners, and also, the women in our Facebook group, the Sounder of Lady Hoggers, will use what we've talked about, but also it will maybe jumpstart conversations amongst them. Like, if you're unsure about farrowing, our group is a great place. It's such a wealth of knowledge for being able to talk to people and meet other people in your area who have maybe done it before, who could walk you through or give you some pointers or whatever. Just having the friendships and knowing the people who can help you along. I feel like in the ag community, that's such an important thing, that mentorship that you gain from others with knowledge you don't have.
Yes.
Yeah. And this was a real conversation. And that was what I loved about the possibility here, was that we could speak freely about the reality of farming or whatever the subject is.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. And I think that us talking about this can actually open a door up for people to be more open to ask those questions that they may feel embarrassed about, like they
or if the farrowing goes wrong, talk about it. Because I mean, it does happen. It's not points off. You're not bad or evil. It's just things happen.
Yeah, shit happens, man. And I think that that's what's so good about this, and this is why I'm so excited about our podcast, is because it truly is real people in real life, and we don't want anybody to feel like they're on the outside. You're not alone. We all cry, cuss, get mad, and have shit happen.
Sometimes we chase a hog with a stick when the play calls for it. It's just part of farming.
Hey, listen, I don't even chase these hogs no more. I see them go, and I'm like, yeah, they'll come back for food, I guess.
They'll come back eventually.
Yeah, I'm too fat and I smoke too much to be chasing no damn hog. I just ain't going
to. I don't do that much anymore myself.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, thank you, ladies. I've had a great time today. I was dragging earlier, and I appreciate the smiles and the laughs very much. So.
Yes, it was wonderful seeing you guys, and we will gather next time. Go feed them hogs.
Okay. All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.